Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Thank you for tuning in today. Early voting continues in the Republican primary runoff race for Lubbock County Judge between Gary Boren and Curtis Parrish. And in studio with me right now, we welcome back to the show, Gary Boren.
Thank you, Chad.
Hey.
Great to be here. Great day in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and appreciate you coming on as early voting. It's Wednesday, so I guess it's beginning to wind down here on the back stretch.
I think
now.
It's going to kick up even more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're going to see more people. More people went to the polls yesterday than the day before. Today's probably going to be a big day. So you're talking to a lot of people who might be on their way to vote right now. And obviously, you two had a forum last night. Overall, how do you think that went?
Well, I think it went very well. Curtis is a tough opponent, and Curtis is he's been very clean. I mean, we disagree on policy, but it's been a clean race,
yeah.
And I appreciate him having that kind of race because we talk issues and we disagree on a lot of issues. But he takes different paths than I do, but it's been clean, and I think Lubbock citizens appreciate it, and they deserve that. They don't deserve to get up there and see, all kinds of hack going on and
mudslinging.
Yeah. And so if we're going to do that, let's just get in the ring and fight. I mean, it's equivalent, So. It's sort of like going to a boxing match and while a hockey game breaks out.
Yeah.
So anyway, but it was a good forum. It was tough questions, and Jeff Klotzman, I thought, did a great job in handling the forum, and Brad Moran. They were all very professional, very first class. I have no complaints. And, the only thing I asked them to do is make me look thin, put blonde in my hair, and they didn't. So I guess you can't get everything you want, but it was very professional, very, like I say, just what you expect in first class.
Let's get into some things that I have heard from listeners who are confused about you on one issue, and that is this judicial side. And yesterday you brought this up. It was brought up a couple of times in this forum. You say that you want to hear every judicial case that comes through, the probate, guardianship, that you want to handle all of those. Is that your position where you want to handle all of those? Because I also heard you last night, and your opponent says you want to pass those on. You want to pass those on to somebody else. You brought up at the end of last night's debate this $25,000, payment that comes from the state if you handle probates and guardianships, and that you would do you would not, I guess, take that $25,000. So when it comes to the judicial side, what do you want to handle?
I'm going to handle exactly what the law says to handle.
Okay.
And like I said last night, if you brought the dean of Harvard Law School here, or Alan Dershowitz, the professor emeritus from Harvard, or a Supreme Court judge that came to Texas and wanted to be Lubbock County Judge, they're going to sign up for the same course I sign up that Curtis would sign up for. I don't care if you're a lawyer, engineer, space. If you're Donald Trump, you're going to take the 16 hours, and they're going to tell you how you're going to do it. And I'm going to follow the law, exactly what they say, and I'm going to do exactly what they tell me to do, and we're going to make it work, and we're going to outwork everybody, and I'm going to bust my tail and make sure that we even get more cases out, because I'm a businessman. We have to be efficient. I'm drilled in that for 47 years. Now, on the $25,000, people don't know that. That's why I'm saying I believe in open government. You didn't hear it from my opponent. You heard it from Gary Boren. If you will handle the probation, 2 days a week, the state's going to give you $25,000 raise. I'm not going to do it for the $25,000. Heck, they can keep their money. I'm doing it to help people that need to get their property, get their estate settled. And if there's anything contested, that's why you have county courts 1, 2, and 3. You had Philip Hayes on here, and he explained that. And what I don't like and resent is when my opponent sits there and tries to rewrite the Texas Constitution. He tries to rewrite the job description, and he's confusing people by making them think you have to be a lawyer, and that if you're anything less than a lawyer, you're deplorable. You're an it. You don't have it. You don't deserve it. And I will show you here in my former stained hands from last night's dinner over at Abuelo's that there's I'll let you read it, and it says that to be qualified, you just have to be a citizen of the state of Texas, a citizen of the United States, and a voter. And you have to be well informed in the laws of Texas, and you have to be a qualified voter. And to pick one thing out and say, well informed in the law of Texas, well, he's not a constitutional attorney. It says both, qualified voters and informed in the law of Texas. And that confuses people, because that means if you're a housewife, a small business person, a truck driver, a teacher, a retiree, you can run if you're a voter and a citizen, because this was designed by our state founders in the 1866. I'm not sure, but I think that's correct. I'll have to look at the date, or 76, when they wrote the Constitution, that the citizens court, citizens judge, has oversight over the criminal justice system in a county.
So to clarify here, it's your belief, and what you would do is, as on the judicial side as Lubbock County Judge, if it was an uncontested case, probate, guardianship, whatever, that's in your court, you're going to handle that. If it's contested, it's going to go to County Court at Law number 3 or wherever it needs to go. Is that, under your impression, is that what this job calls for, is for the contested cases?
I'm going to follow the law and the training by the state of Texas that says what we have to do and will do. They already have Tom Head. He's not an attorney.
Right.
Okay. All right. And you already have an attorney in the office and a chief investigator to assist and help. So there's not going to be, this idea that there's going to be dishing off and we're going to have to go hire a judge and pay him $200,000 and he resents me saying that I think it's wrong and immoral and this sort of thing for people to raise their salaries when they promise salaries to our public officers that are protecting us. That's really a misguided direction you're trying to confuse people on.
Is he lying when he says he would be able to do the contested cases?
I don't know. I'm not going to call him a liar.
Because you're saying you would throw the contested cases to
I'm going
county
to follow
court
exactly what the law says. It's a citizen's court. If it says, Gary, you're going to take 2 steps forward, 3 steps east, and 4 steps backwards when this comes up, Gary Boren's going to do that. And now there's an attorney in there also that says we can handle this, then we'll handle it. There's a whole floor of judges and district attorneys. This is not space age. Now let me give you an example, Chad. 252 counties, 54 counties in the state of Texas. How many of them have attorneys, lawyers, as county judges? How many? If it's critical, like he's saying it is, 13%. In West Texas, the Panhandle, there are no lawyers as county judges because it's a citizen's court intended. Austin, Texas, the capital of our great state of Texas, is an attorney that's a county judge? No, sir. Citizen. So don't be misled, citizens. We're not deplorables. We're not subgrade. Just because we're not an attorney, we're not, your education counts, your life experience counts. If people believe in you, this is your state, your county, your country, you can serve.
When we come back, we've got other issues to get into in this race. Gary Boren in studio. In studio with me right now, Gary Boren, candidate for Lubbock County Judge in this runoff. Election day is on May 22nd. Early voting continues. Let's talk about some other issues besides the judicial versus administrative. This does deal with the administrative, I guess. Let's talk about public safety. And that's something that's been discussed off and on in this race. I'm sure you've sat down with the sheriff. What does the sheriff need right now that he doesn't have, and what can you as county judge do about that?
Okay, first of all, Chad, before I go, I meant to do something that I forgot, and I apologize to you and your listeners. But I want to take a moment to recognize Rex Andrews. He was covering City Hall when I was there, and he was always a professional. He was so pro-life. I'm very pro-life. I'm pro-Second Amendment. I carry CHL, and he had a passion for pro-life, and he was such a humble, fair person. Mm-hmm. And many times a former mayor that doesn't live in Lubbock anymore would treat him with such disdain. It was embarrassing. I have to go out and help him because it was pathetic. But he was such a humble man. I really appreciate him, and I wanted to acknowledge him. For your listeners, that I don't know if a lot of them got a chance to know him, but he was truly a first-class person. Yeah. Now, to answer your question, not only, unlike my opponent, have I visited with the sheriff multiple. If I don't visit with him once or twice a week, I'm not doing my job as a candidate. Not only do I not visit with him, I ride with the state troopers. I ride with the sheriff's office. I have ridden with them. I ride with them consistently because I want to know firsthand on the job what their experience. The sheriff tells me, I go out and ride with them. I see it magnified even more so. And I'm warning our citizens. I'm telling them, and the sheriff has been telling them. And my opponent doesn't know this because he is not in touch with the people to hear and see what's going on. But we have a lot of things happening in Lubbock. He has picked up 81 hardcore criminal aliens, illegals. These aren't the kind that sneak over the border to make a living and send money back to their family. These are people who steal, rob, rape, and they got records. And he has 6 officers with ICE that have been trained, and he's doing a tremendous job to protect us. And we take a lot of this stuff for granted. It doesn't come easy. It comes with commitment. And my commitment has always been law enforcement. That's why I've always was supported in the city of Lubbock. We support the people who go out and put their lives on the line. I don't have to do that. And so if I'm not going to have one go out and represent us and worry about his wife and kids and him not coming home. I'm going to give him the best armor. I'm going to give him the best bullets that will kill whatever he has to shoot at. And I'm going to give him the best of anything to protect himself and protect our citizens. And that's also, it's moving to a high stage of technology. And those are some of the tools he has to have. He has to have a budget to compete with DPS, Department of Public Safety, and Texas Rangers. He's got to have a budget to compete with LPD. We were ramping up when I was there 2 per 1,000 because we were so short. Mm-hmm. And so to get officers, you have to recruit, train, recruit. He's got to have a training budget. He's got to recruit. He's got to compete with Texas Tech PD. He's got to compete with all the small rural communities. He also has to compete now with school districts. That's a new one. LISD is expanding. I talked to them the other day. These other schools are expanding for security. And, he has to get the right kind of temperament, training, backgrounds to do that. So he has to have these budget tools. And my number one has always been your safety, and I'm not backing down off that because I've seen it firsthand. I've rode with the sheriff. I've asked if I could and his SWAT teams, and I've watched them take down drug dealers, 8 of them, 10 at a time. I'll tell you, if folks could see it, they would be shocked. What you watch this live TV stuff that goes on PD. Let me tell you something. It's going on in Lubbock, Texas, because we're on the map, yeah. And so we got to stand up for our citizens and for those who protect us.
Has he told you there's something that's not being addressed right now in the budget, and is that something where there needs to be a refocus?
Well, let's look at it this way, Chad. If I'm a SWAT officer, highly trained, and I'm making X, whatever that X is, and then the city of Lubbock advertised a starting position that pays 20% more, I'm sitting there thinking, now what am I here for? I'm here to commit and publicly protect citizens, but, I still have to take care of my family, and they're making 20% more. Yeah. And he was promised in his budget that they would do some raises in key areas to protect keep the turnover low. And you know what happened? Didn't happen. And guess who got the raises? Commissioners.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. My number one issue when I get in office is we're going to roll back those salaries. And I said it's wrong and it was immoral. And I stand by that, Curtis. I do. And it's because it is wrong. And I will take the cut. And you won't see me knocking on the door for probates and all that to get $25,000 kicker, from the state of Texas as additional salary if I just do it 2 days a week. If you want reference to this, folks, I encourage you to look up Austin Statesman, and they'll tell you about what's been going on with these county judges and this sort of thing. And so that's why I'm telling you, when there's, people like to get up here and say a lot of flowery words and beautiful speech and all this kind of stuff. Very disingenuous, because you need to know someone who has experience opening up and opening up the windows, opening the doors, letting you see, put the sunshine in there, letting you see what's been going on.
This brings me to another issue, because obviously you want to roll back pay. They're the two new guys who are going to be coming on board. They're against pay raises. You're against pay raises. Your opponent says he's against pay raises. What about some of the other positions? Because as you know, in the budget, there are other elected officials and employees that y'all control their pay. What's the policy going to be if justice of the peace comes to you? If tax assessor collector comes to you and says, you know what, county judge, we're going to need a pay raise right now. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do our jobs. How do you handle that? They're
hired by the same boss I am, you, the citizens, and we're going to make sure that all elected officials are fairly paid and compensated according to the comparable counties and the jobs they're doing. When I'm talking about rolling back, I'm talking about the county commissioners and the judge. I'm not talking about any other department.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit there and put any of those in a headlock because I want to do a power play.
But if they come to you in 2 years and want a pay raise, how do you handle that?
Then what we do, what I said we do, is we get a group of business citizens together, and we'll get some top-notch HR people that are also like from UMC or Covenant and the private sector, and business people, and we'll put them together and have them study, give them all the information, counties that range from 250 to 350 to 400, look at the job descriptions and let them study it, look at the cost of living in Lubbock, and see if it's what we're doing is being fair, if it's been properly done, because they have to make a living for their family too, and they have a job from the same boss I do to do, and I want to be sure they're compensated. I want to be sure that they have the tools they need, because the same boss I work for said, Gary, you handle this, and this guy over here is going to be the one that's going to climb up the KLBK TV tower and paint it. He needs to be making this, and I'm going to say amen, because I sure won't do that. And then this one over here is going to be picking up a lot of debris and trash and this, and he's going to make X, and I want to be sure he's paid, because we want the best people to have a career if they want to in this kind of position. So that's how I intend to do it, and that way if it's challenged, that's fine. I want people to see that we looked at the Lubbock market. I'm on the board of TWC. I've been in personnel. I've done staffing, city and schools, and we know what we have to pay to keep good people. At the end of the day, Lubbock County, what is Lubbock County? It's people. It's the people that work down there day in, day out, the jailers, the people that work in the detention center. It's the custodial people. It's the secretaries. It's the administrative staff. It's the DA's office. If we can't get top-notch prosecutors, these people are back on the streets.
And are there any positions in the county, whether it's DA, we had a texter who sent in the coroner's office, are there any positions at all that you want to take a look at and see if they are way out of line or where they should be or underpaid?
That's something that I don't know till I get there to see. But I would, to eliminate bias, I think you have to put business people, you have to put good top-notch HR that understand compensation systems. Mm-hmm. You have to look what the state of Texas recommends, and you got to look at our panhandle. Who do we compete with? And we got Texas Tech, and we got major industry here, hospitals, and we need all these people to help us set salary guides, because we want to be fair to people. So I hear everything. When you're running, you hear everything.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to speculate on stuff like that. I have certainly, but I think if the commissioner's court and myself working and we appoint top-notch business people and these people to look at these things, we can address them.
Visiting with Gary Boren in studio. I think we're about to hit the break. Can you hang out for one more segment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. We'll come back and we'll get into a few other issues. But real quick, though, and I want to hit on this before we go to break. You brought up a possibility of a public safety bond. We'll get your answer on this when we come back. What exactly that would address when it comes to public safety. We'll get to that when we come back with Gary Boren in studio. All right, final segment with Gary Boren, candidate for Lubbock County Judge in this runoff race. Early voting continues until Friday, Election Day on the 22nd. Gary, as we were going to break there, I brought up the last time you were on the show, last Wednesday actually, you brought up the possibility of a need for a public safety bond. We had one of the incoming county commissioners who called in and said he was under the belief that might be for the jail, if the jail needs to be expanded. Where are you going there on the possible need for a bond?
Well, basically, there's no bond discussion. You go into the budget. It's $107 million a year, and you scrub it. I've never seen a government budget you couldn't cut, just like you do your house. You go in there and reset your priorities, and you do away with all this frivolous traveling the commissioners do back and forth to Austin. The hotel costs, the meals, you do away with all that sort of stuff and focus on only when you have to be there. And you start doing things just like you normally do, and you free up money. And then as you free up money, you also work with TxDOT and the federal highways and different ones through TxDOT and work with the MPO. The MPO is made up of the city manager and the mayor. And right now they just put 2 brand new commissioners on there. They put Bill McKay and Gilbert Flores, I believe. And they take the money and they make recommendations. Now, right now, recommendations already in place are Upland Roads. And then yesterday they came up with some engineering money for Woodrow Road. But there's no talk of bonds. All bonds are ways to finance something with cheap rates that you can do today and save millions of dollars today. But the difference on bonds, when you do choose to do them, and I think I've only had in my lifetime been part of maybe 2 bond programs I recall, is you let the citizens, they're the ones that decide if the priority is set right. They're the ones that decide how it's going to affect their taxes. You know, if we can cut spending and stuff, it may not affect anything at all if it was to even go that direction. So I want to dismiss that notion that we're out there looking for ways to raise debt on you. You know, according to my opponent, we wouldn't even have a detention center if he said, well, we're just going to cut that out of the budget and scrub it. No, we wouldn't have enough 80, 90, 100 million. That would take up the whole year. You know, so you have to have the ways that you did cheap dollars to save dollars for tomorrow. And you keep it short term if you ever go that direction. But that's so premature to do that because we hadn't even begun to scrap that budget at the county. And I believe, and what I've seen, there's lots of places to cut and budget and save and do what you have to. Then we have the maintenance we have to take care of, you know, and they've done asphalt caliche. But they need guidance and training, having the best ways to do that. And that's where we have to get RFPs and bids and things like that to get a hold of these precinct roads. And those commissioners, I know the 2 new ones, they will do it. They know what they're doing. They've been on the roads, and they know road construction. I grew up constructing roads, shoveling and asphalt and hot mix. I worked on them. I know what it takes. So, any kind of debt talk, that's way out of line because we have to get in there and scrub and look what we got. And a lot of times the state supplies money. There might be infrastructure. You just have to work through the processes.
You brought up the 2 incoming county commissioners, Jason Corley and Chad C. They have backed you in this race. Why do you think that is, and what does that mean to you in this race?
Well, personally, it means to me a great deal of confidence, and I appreciate it because I didn't know these guys till we got in this race, but they also know that I'm a conservative. You don't have to have people calling the show and asking me, Gary, are you a conservative? I tell you up front and center I have, and my actions show that. And his is nothing but talk. So you have to have people call in and say, are you really a conservative? No, he's not. Because he's never had any experience dealing with the forces when they come at you to raise taxes, to spend, to do things for special interest groups. I have, and those 2 new commissioners, they know how to do it, and they're standing tough. And so they know that to get the job done for their precincts and for Lubbock County, they need a 3rd vote that's going to stand with them. And they know that I will deliver, and they know that I will stand with them. And that's what it's about, standing with the people of Lubbock County, the property owners, the homeowners, whether you live in Lubbock, Shallowater, you know, standing with the volunteer firemen, standing with the sheriff's office, standing with the prosecutor, standing with the courts, the whole criminal justice system, people that put people first. We know our values are shared, and with that shared value comes commitment, and they realize we're at a critical point in history to get this done.
Gary, I have one more question for you, and then I'll give you time for kind of a final pitch to the voters, a final statement. A lot of the back and forth between you 2 comes down to experience. Your opponent says he's got the judicial side. He's got he's the lawyer. He's got that side down. He's worked for Robert Duncan. He has that experience. You come in, obviously, you've been on the school board. You've been on the city council. You've owned businesses. What does your experience bring to the table that his does not?
Experience working with people, personnel, budgets of $500 million, budgets of $100 million, working with law enforcement, working with paving, working with contracting, finding ways, working with other elected officials to get things done like Milwaukee. You know, that took a team effort, and it was led by Tom Martin and Mark McDougall. And, you know, it's working with people to understand that. Also being a spokesman where even the job you're doing, 2 different governors recognize that, hey, you're doing an exceptional job, and we want to share your thoughts and your values with the whole state of Texas, and being put on the appraisal board to study, the task force to study that. My opponent has 0 experience. And I mean, it sounds, I'm not trying to be critical, but just because you work for, you know, Robert Duncan, he's not Robert Duncan, by the way. I don't remember seeing Curtis Parrish's name on any legislation. You know, he was a staff aide. And, you know, a staff aide is just like, if I answer the phone for Einstein, does that make me Einstein because I answered his phone and delivered his mail? Or, you know, I went to a hearing? No. I took notes, you know, dictation? No. You know, it's honorable work, but it's not legislative experience on working with people, passing policy, making things happen for those closest to you, local government. And I don't, you know, that's the main difference is experience in business, multitude of working with major companies and small companies, making a payroll, having to deal with all kinds of issues as a small business. I understand what people go through. I understand what it means to have your home impacted. That's why I take these strong stands where I'm at.
Take the next minute, Gary. I think this, you know, people will vote this week, and they will vote on the 22nd. Give them take the next minute and give them that final pitch.
You know, really, 47 years experience. We're at a cross point in time in Lubbock County where you can have a conservative majority to do the things you've always wished would take place. And we've joined hands. I'm the final piece to that puzzle, and I would respectfully ask for your vote, your consideration to allow me to serve you. You know, I'm retired. I got 100% effort into this job. I'm going to do all aspects of the job as the state requires. I'm not dishing it off to anybody. I take full responsibility of doing the job. I will do the job just like anyone else is going to have to be trained to do it, and I will make the difference by hard work, by listening. I've knocked on over 3,000 doors, and I've talked to citizens, and I've listened to you. And I know you're mad, you're fed up with a lot of the stuff that's going on in Lubbock, and I hear what you're saying, and I know how to deliver what you need done. So I'd appreciate your vote. I'm a Lubbock citizen, homegrown, you know, in local schools, Texas Tech. Lived here my whole life, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve you and to be your county judge.
All right. That was Gary Boren.